My number one practical application takeaway from this episode was that you should always have duct tape near at hand. Turns out to be a critical factor more than once in this movie.
Duct tape is the number one material in space.
Right,
That's what you
right.
need.
But also on the flip side, from what you just said about the taking personal responsibility, right? If you're in the leadership role, if you are leading the team, if you are in the role of potentially being the rescuer, right? What you're looking for are those people that are doing that, right? The people that are already taking responsibility, the people that are already solving problems at the ground level, the people that are facing the challenges and putting themselves in a position to be helped are incredibly powerful, right? Those are the people who are ready to be helped. Those are the people who, if you reach out to them, you actually have a really good chance of getting them through their limit break, of getting them to a new level, of getting them out of whatever situation they're in, right? And so you can recognize that, you can look for that, you can challenge people, you can encourage them, you can point out what are the disciplines they might need to develop. But when we see what happens in the other half of this movie, right, all of these organizations, all of these people, all of the, all over all the countries all over the planet, like sort of doing extraordinary things to help Mark out, right? It's because it's a compelling story, like we got to go save this guy on Mars, but it's also because they can see him doing extraordinary things, right? They can see that he's doing literally everything in his power, and that's inspirational, right? Like, oh, I couldn't let that person down. I couldn't not put in full effort myself if I see that that's what's happening on my team. If I see that this person's is, despite their suffering, is working that hard. And I don't think those people are hard to find. Like, if you look around, you'll find people that are in bad situations who are neurotic, and people who are in bad situations who are deflecting, but you will see people, who, despite difficulties, because of difficulties, are really thriving, or are at least, coming to work every day and just getting it done. And that's really powerful. Like, that can be inspirational. So you can drive behavior change, you can drive extraordinary organizational change that way as well.
Yeah, that's a good point that I didn't really think about. How do you leveraging the ownership, that responsibility that people have to take personal action, and what happens then? Also, I want to talk about, kind of going back to our M. Scott Peck quote from the beginning about pain. It's like, well, you kind of got to lean into the pain. That's the last practical application for me here, and for us individually. That might be a little bit different than having to, like, farm in excrement and stuff like that, or, pull
Hopefully. I hope that my personal path doesn't lead me to the farming in excrement on the desert planet phase of survival.
Yeah, but for all of us, there is that pain, and the natural thing to do, kind of going back to that mountaintop that we talked about with the counting the potatoes after the airlock blows. The natural thing to do is not to want to go back into that pain after you have that traumatic event where the airlock blows up. In fact, he's like thrown through the air, and obviously I don't know about what the gravity situation is, if it's lesser of a fall or something, but either way,
still terrible
he literally goes through like physical pain, emotional, and obviously mental pain given his survival situation, and he has to go right back into it. That's the thing. That same night, after he fixes the airlock, or at least closes off the airlock, now he's got to go back into the pain, and he's got to go face reality of how much food he actually has left. And this is the thing that most humans, especially today, do not want to do. I don't want to do it. I have to force myself to do it. I don't want to, after I make the mistake in the meeting, after I say something that I wish I didn't say to my wife, or like say it in a tone that I really know I shouldn't have said it in, and I have told myself a million times I'm going to stop doing that. The easy thing to do is just to go off and say, okay, well, I'm going to go out and get a drink. I'm going to go and, play video games. I'm just going to watch a movie. I'm just going to go.
Fine, yeah. That's probably fine.
The hard thing to do is to sit and think on it, to meditate on, what actually happened, what was the true reality of the situation, and then to work quickly to make that situation right. To go back into the pain and say, okay, if I need to apologize, I'm going to apologize. If we need to have a frank discussion, we're going to have a frank discussion. But what we can't do is have that moment where everybody can or that moment where you feel the pain and then you run away from it instead of quickly coming back towards it.
Hmm.
Because that builds up. And I mean, there's a lot of science behind this that we understand now, that when we don't do that, that builds up trauma, that builds up this kind of emotional polarization of memories in our head and stuff, which when we go to sleep, it's natural that we're trying to process those memories, and those memories, kind of the best way that I've heard it talked about, is they get locked up. It's really
Right.
hard for your brain to like put those memories to rest, which is why they continue to define us over and over and over until we're willing to go back into it and face the pain.
Right, and they're a lot scarier when you avoid them, right? Like it's just easier. It's a much less of a big deal if you just right away like, "Whoops, that was terrible. I'm really sorry about that. Where are we right now?" Like that's a lot easier than 3 weeks later when you've been avoiding the conversation or avoiding the problem, and then like finally getting around to opening it back up again.
Yeah, and there's like simple ones. I'll give you a really small one that I saw recently. Funny example, but on Sundays, we have Red Zone, right? It's been going for 16 years, led by a guy named Scott Hansen. It's just all the football games, all the pro football games, all jammed into one stream.
Okay,
And they're
okay.
just showing you the highlights of all the plays, basically. But the live highlights. It's not like you're at Sports Center, you're watching it after the fact, live plays. And the whole tagline has always been 7 hours of commercial free football.
Hmm.
But last week, Scott Hansen, who has again been doing this for 16 years, led off with and here we go with 7 hours of commercial free football. And then it wasn't. And then there have been ads added into it, and the show has changed and stuff like that. And again, it's a small thing, but Scott Hansen is, in my experience, a really stand-up guy. He's somebody who has high levels of integrity, perhaps a magnanimous leader, as we look at here on WonderTour. Again, even though he's doing this funny Red Zone show that we love. But the thing is, he took it on himself to post a 1 minute video afterwards and apologize for it and say, you know what, I can't say that anymore. I'm still trying to give you the best product, but I've always hung my hat on that 7 hours of commercial free football, and that wasn't what it was.
Hmm.
So I'm going to come out. And again, like you said, it was like the day afterwards. I'm going to say this because
Yep.
I want to get out in front of this, because I don't feel right sleeping at night with just this little bit of friction, this little bit of
Yeah.
pain.
I violated some expectations, and so just going to go jump right on that. I'm like, okay, yep, yeah, I'm not afraid of it. I'm not resenting it. It's not somebody else's fault, right?
Yep.
Like not like, oh, well, these are the 6 reasons we have to do this thing. Just like, anyway, nope, this is where we are right
Yeah,
now,
not blame
and
the
I need to,
studio. Not
yeah,
right. It was like
yeah,
it
I
was
just
me
need
who
to,
said the words. So
yeah, no, that's really cool. That's cool. Like, just jump right on it. Like, okay, anyway, yeah, I'm sorry, you're right. This is where we are. And so, yeah, Mark, stumbles back into his rover and he screams and punches the ceiling a couple times. Then he starts typing emails like, yeah, so all my potato plants are dead. It's just like, just like, all right, what are we going to do now? Right.